at 5.5 billion of copper equivalent and the mine plan that we have put together, we're looking at $1 billion a year cash flowing business at $4 copper.
Well, welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Today we're exploring Oroco, a resource is a multi-billion-dollar pure play to copper as the price of copper continues to push higher, actually hitting relative all-time highs here at over $5 per pound. And joining to discuss just that, we have Ian Graham, the president, joining from Oroco. First and foremost, welcome, sir.
Hi, Kyle. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, such a pleasure to get you on. And you guys are playing in a fascinating field that I want to dive into. So first and foremost, for newer people that are just stumbling into this, can you give us the high level opportunity with Oroco Resources and why the street is kind of disconnected from this billion-dollar opportunity?
Certainly. Oroco is an exploration company, and we have a primary mineable copper asset in northwest Mexico. We've brought that asset through to an economic study that shows 5.5 billion pounds of copper equivalent available to mine at very good mining prices and rates, and with a very, very compelling initial capital to get the project going. So we think this is a very exciting project. We do believe it will go into production. Time to be observed, but we think it's ready to go in great many ways. We have a little more work to do, and it would be a story I think people could join and watch us go through the last leg and get it ready for a major transaction that would prepare a new copper deposit for world production.
Yeah, and just kind of speaking of the ones and zeros here, do you want to talk about the actual value? I know it's changing every day with the copper prices, but give some people a little bit of taste of what the interest is here.
Certainly. We're at 5.5 billion pounds of copper equivalent, and the mine plan that we have put together, we're looking at $1 billion a year cash flowing business at $4 copper. So clearly substantially more as the copper price rises. And, NPV of the project at $4 copper was 1.5 billion US dollars, and capex to build a little over 1 billion US dollars. So that's a very good capex to NPV ratio when compared with other copper projects globally. And so we think as a company holding just that singular asset, we're clearly directly geared, in our view, to that asset and its value.
Yeah, no, I definitely appreciate the insight on that. But when people think copper themselves, I don't think people think as much of the commodity as they do perhaps like copper piping people are ripping out of the walls and stuff like that. But do you want to talk about, everything that you think is perhaps driving this price? I mean, people don't understand like the insane amounts that are used in electric vehicles, wind turbines, solar panels, all this stuff. Do you think that's what's driving the value, or is there something else underlying that's really pushing this higher?
Well, Kyle, I think the markets for copper globally are complex, and for a long time, copper has been regarded as a bellwether to global economic growth and to industrialization as new parts of the globe become more industrialized, electrified, etc. But I think we're seeing renewal in the first world. Infrastructure is older, perhaps a little tired, and with new technologies coming on, energy-hungry technologies are, in order to move that energy around, we need copper. In order to build the engines and all the various technology services, we need copper. And there are only poor substitutes for copper.
Yeah, and those fundamentals are definitely playing to your favor today. And I wouldn't mind talking about unlocking that potential value between Plan Mexico, an administration that's getting really on board with waking up to local mining, building out that infrastructure as well. Do you want to talk about what takes you? And again, I think the street's finally waking up to the value of what you guys have, starting to get some higher volume bumps here. But maybe explain like how do we unlock that value of Oroco here? Does it have to do with partnering and getting the government on board? Does it have to do with the finishing up some of the whatever you guys have to do for the PEAs and stuff? Maybe just tell us exactly what you think is going to be going on here.
Clearly, partnering with the federal government here in Mexico is critical, and we have put our shoulders to the wheel on that over the last several months, and that has begun to bear fruit just recently. And so we have a former senator for the state of Sinaloa, now effectively a congressman currently sitting, has joined with us to champion the project, move it forward, and help stabilize the region that the project is in. And so with that occurring and a general pivot at the highest levels in Mexico to re-embrace mining, which is a process we see as continuing right at the moment, we think that our project will again become extremely attractive for a developer to acquire. We do have a little work yet to do. We have the so-called South Zone, which requires some drilling. It's a modest amount of drilling to lift the resource into the indicated category. We have a clear path for doing that. We need to raise a little money and get that done, but we're inviting the investing public and also institutions to come along with us on that next step of in the project development and help us get teed up for a fundamental transaction that would liberate great value in our estimation for holders of the company.
Yeah, and on that note, when we come back, we're going to explore just that a lot further. But this was just a brief introduction to Oroco, and I'll pass that question off to the viewers. If you guys want to see News Catalyst as it comes down the wire, we're going to bring it to you here, so consider subscribing for that. But on that note, as always, we look forward to catching you in the next one.